I often get questions about what is the most efficient way to convert AutoCAD geometry into ShipConstructor. So I thought I'd actually focus this video on one of the good workflows of converting that data. So the data that you get from different sources, partners, subcontractors, even within the same company, is that you might get a native AutoCAD file or you might even get step files. So the example that I'm going to show you here is that this right here is a file that was imported from STEP into a ShipConstructor empty drawing. I think it's a deck drawing that I'm using. And the geometry that's imported is purely AutoCAD native file. So these are just 3D solids. Pretty much everything's a 3D solid. So a couple things that I usually do to set things up is in the layers, I create a layer called, in this case, Step Import, which has all my geometry. So as I click through here, you'll see all of them are on the layer of Step Import. But I also do create a layer called Parts Created or Part Created. And what this does is as I'm converting these parts to ShipConstructor, I move this geometry into the Parts Created layer. So it kind of allows me a little bit better management of what I've converted. And then also what I do is in the parts layer, this is a ShipConstructor layer, I make it transparent, or I just have a transparency of 70. Just again, as I'm building it, I have a better idea of how or what has been converted, just so that I don't convert the same part, and just again, a little bit better management. And also sometimes what I do is as I'm converting it, I'll hide the parts that I've created, the ShipConstructor parts, because I only want to focus on the parts to be created. So pretty much what I did from here is I created a couple of script commands, and I've shown you this in my previous videos and blog posts. But I've created these 3 commands, and in essence, this create plate part command is the key command that I use. And by clicking on it, it selects a part. I have to select the part multiple times because it's an AutoCAD solid. I have to explode it several times, which creates new entities and so forth. But then I eventually get the tool path and I can create a part relatively quick. So it takes about 5 to 10 seconds per part, depending on the stock that I have to select. Occasionally, sometimes when I explode parts, not all the geometry is on the same UCS or layer or plane. So therefore I have to do this continue plate part, which will have an extra step of making sure that everything's in the same plate and then continue creating the part. So I could have included this into the main one, but it would have added an extra step, which I didn't want to. So that's why I created 2. And then for parts that have holes, in some cases doesn't work as well, so I have to create a separate command. And again, it just has an extra step where it has to define the UCS and add the parts. But even occasionally it doesn't seem to add all the holes, which again, adding hole to a part that's created is simply adding one more command of adding a part to the structure. So it's relatively easy. So for some of those, you'll have to do it multiple times. So I'm going to walk you through doing one of each of these, and then I'll kind of show you how I can convert a bunch of this and give myself a time limit of 5 minutes so you can kind of judge how long, how many parts you can convert in just 5 minutes. So the first one, if I do the create plate part, I go and I select it. It isolates it, so it kind of removes everything from the model. And then I have to select the object again. It does some exploding. It gives me the geometry. So I have to select the geometry. And then this is just the normal ShipConstructor toolpath. Asks me for where I want my piece mark or interior point. I pick the stock that I want, my directions that are set up, click OK, and voila, the part is pretty much created. So it's pretty quick to create that one single part, so I'll just kind of show you doing it relatively without explaining it, but just how fast you can create it. So it's that easy for those parts. For parts that will give me issues, so I know this part will give me an issue that I would have to use continue part. So if I continue with this command, I'll show you what it will do. So this says that there is not everything in the same plane. So I don't want to create circles, and I want to get out of the command, and then I want to use this continue part. And what it does is first thing is you have to set the plane that you want your part to be in. So usually just pick 3 parts or 3 points, select your geometry again. It'll make sure everything's in the same plane. You select your piece mark, and then you select your stock, and then it creates a part. So there is that one extra step, but it's still not that bad. For parts with holes, so if we select this part here, similar workflow, but it again has that one extra step where you have to select its UCS. So you just have to select 3 points that are on the plane that you want. And I forgot what stock that was, but we'll use that one. And then it creates that part. And then that's pretty much it. Those are the 3 main commands that I use. As you can see, it's relatively quick. So I'll go through and convert as much as I can within 5 minutes. Okay, I think I actually just went over just I think 5.5 minutes here. So if you notice halfway through the video here, I actually just changed some layers. And what I did here is I just hid the part layer. So the parts that were actually created, I hid it just so that I was able to see what it was left to be converted, especially when I'm dealing with these brackets. It's kind of hard to see. But you can see that I converted almost half of the project, at least for the structural parts. And also there was some issues with inner holes that I didn't catch all of them, and I would have just added them. So there's still probably 1 or 2 things I would have to adjust for, maybe 2 or 3 parts I think didn't add the holes properly. So to see what parts I actually created here, so let's hide or show these parts and remove the imported stuff. So these are all the parts that I created in ShipConstructor. So these are 100% ShipConstructor parts. And it might be hard to see because of the transparency. So if we move this to 0, you can kind of see the parts that have been created. So some have the inner holes there. You can see it has the inner holes. Some brackets I accidentally missed and I moved by accident. But you see that in general it converted it actually pretty good, at least relatively quickly, and therefore there's some final tweaking I might have to do after. So I hope that was useful, and yeah, thank you very much.